Hi, I'm Olivia, and today's happy nugget comes from St. Martin de Porres, or San Martin de Porres, one of the most beloved Peruvian saints. St. Martin de Porres was born in 1579 in Lima, at the time the viceroyalty of Peru. The Spanish conquest had begun 5 decades earlier. The Spanish ruled with cruelty and tyranny, blinded by their thirst for wealth and power. It wasn't long before Lima became the center of culture, politics, and commerce, with a kaleidoscope of racial mixtures between whites, Africans, and native Peruvian Indians. It was a society where social standing, prominence, and opportunity were very much defined by the color of the skin. Martin was the illegitimate son of a Spanish nobleman and a free African slave. When Martin was born and his father saw that his skin was black, he refused to acknowledge him and abandoned him and his mother to live in misery and poverty. As a little boy, his mother would send him to the market while she took care of his little sister. Martin would always come back with an empty basket and no money. He'd spend his time praying in the various churches and give all the money away to the poor. Martin was a quick-witted and intelligent child, and eventually his father repented for his actions, acknowledged him and his sister, took them in, and hired teachers to complete their education. When Martin was 12, he had to decide what trade would help him earn a living. He decided to apprentice as a barber. In those days, barbers didn't just cut hair and beards. Among many things, they treated wounds, fractures, and prescribed medicine. A barber was also a surgeon, a doctor, and a pharmacist. Martin applied himself fervently to the study of his profession. He was so skilled, people from all walks of life came to be treated by him. When he was 15, he decided to dedicate his life fully to God, requesting the humblest post in the Dominican monastery of the Holy Rosary, a donado, or lay helper, who would take on the heaviest tasks, like sweeping cloisters and cleaning bathrooms. Martin's father had no problem with him entering the illustrious order of the friar preachers, but he could not conceive of his son being admitted as a servant. Due to his influence, the monastery was ready to accept Martin as a lay brother. But at 15, Martin was determined, committed in his humility to enter as a servant. And with that devotion to duty, humility, and charity in his heart, he lived for the rest of his life. No job was too lowly, no task too difficult, no insult too great. Early on, he was often ridiculed and humiliated, called a mulatto dog. But Martin always smiled and took care of everyone with the same love with which he carried God in his heart. Soon Martin took over his profession as a barber in the monastery, serving the poor and sick. By then, his monastery brothers had already witnessed miracles. Martin was often seen in ecstasy, levitating off the ground, utterly absorbed in prayer and devotion. Throughout his life, Martin performed a variety of miracles, from being in 2 places at once to healing the sick. His love for humanity saw no bounds, but his love didn't just extend to humans. He loved all of God's creatures. All Peruvian children are familiar with the story of St. Martin getting a dog, a cat, and a mouse to eat out of the same bowl peacefully. He healed animals with the same love and devotion as he did humans. He was so loved and respected, he was sought after by the most powerful men in Lima. In a time of great social and racial prejudice, Martin made no distinction between the color of people's skin, their wealth, or social standing. He loved, healed, and guided the wealthiest of the wealthy and the poorest of the poor. But he also made sure they could help themselves, helping them to look for jobs after he'd healed them. He also took care of the most forgotten ones, orphans, by opening an orphanage, something unheard of in his time. The religious and civil authorities wanted nothing to do with it. They thought Martin was crazy, but it didn't matter, because he found a way to open an orphanage and take care of those children. Martin was also not satisfied by simply using the wealth of others to aid the poor. He also worked to create wealth by planting fruit trees to feed the poor and setting up a plantation of herbs to use their medicinal purposes for healing. It took 323 years for Martin de Porres to be canonized as a saint. But to those he touched in life as well as in death, Martin the Porous had always been a saint. He lived his life with humility and dignity, faithful to his own path. But he never expected or demanded others to take that path. He understood everyone has their own destiny to fulfill, and he fulfilled his with incredible love, dignity, and compassion. Perhaps the greatest virtue exemplified by St. Martin the Porous was charity. But he knew that charity is not just giving possessions to the poor. One can give away all their possessions, but if they have hatred in their heart, they have given nothing. True charity means letting go of hatred. The way you treat people, animals, and the natural world around you is something you can control. We may not be able to get a dog, a cat, and a mouse to eat out of the same bowl, but we can always be kind and strive to be patient. One doesn't have to have the calling of a saint to have a saintly heart. And that's today's Happy Nugget. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe. As always, I link below the video anything I recommend. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. See you next time.